Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your favorite bar at the end of the galaxy. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. This is the Captain's Table. This is a podcast where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about the news and latest updates or just specific topics about Star Citizen. I think as of now, this may be the oldest contiguous Star Citizen podcast that has ever existed. I've been doing this since 2015. So, I just realized that now because I think most of the other ones are not really fully going anymore on hiatus. So,
what was the one that you were on quite a lot back in the day? Sorry, Star Talk or something.
Yes, it was Starcast. Was the original
Starcast? Yeah. Okay, cool.
And then eventually I left to do this because Starcast got put on hiatus. So, but anyways, today we've got one new face and one old face joining us. But we'll start off with the old and grizzled man with the crossbow that's hanging behind him, and it is a crossbow, right? Not a
No, it's bow. Not. It's not hanging behind me. It's now hanging next to me.
Okay,
and
it's usually hanging behind you, and people always ask the question. It's a longbow, you said?
Compound bow.
A component bow, yeah. Mr. Zark, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm just a normal citizen playing the game, hanging out on Paul's Discord, so I'm usually around there. Though last half year I've been in Japan, so I've been less active, which wasn't that bad. I mean, I didn't have to suffer through 318. So
and you got to go to Japan, which especially is it's always an interesting country to go to. So I'm not gonna lie, I've been wanting to do that for a while, and just because the historical sites there are fascinating to me. But
it's really fascinating, and so I've been there in my capacity as landscape architect with city development as a focus. So that was my whole stick while I was there. Was great. I can't recommend going there for work. It's just bad.
It's work.
But
yeah.
It's not just because it's work, but as a German, it's just hell working there.
And you don't speak a lot of Japanese, I'm guessing. So
it's not about speaking Japanese. It's because the working mentality is so different from the German one.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. Now I'm back. Must say, New Lowell looks great, though it still has many problems. So the city looks great, landing zone is bad. Same thing I will talk shortly with regards to the space stations, but let's weep level increased.
Yeah. And then we have a new face who you've been around. He's one of my favorite content creators in Star Citizen, so I'm gonna geek out a little bit about that. And you should be watching him if you haven't. Mr. VoidyVids, Mr. Voidy, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
I play Star Citizen, and I try to make gameplay sort of centric focused videos on Star Citizen. I throw them up on a YouTube channel called VoidyVids, and it's usually very down to earth, legal type stuff, trading, mining, that kind of thing. Average gameplay stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Totally. No jump town work at all.
No jump town, no stealing, no piracy, none of that stuff.
Nothing.
That stuff's cringe, man. Come on.
Yes, exactly. So as Chad has decided, he's playing the role of a Sith Lord because it is currently too damn cold in the southern hemisphere is the best way to putting it. So
correct. Yeah.
All right, and of course today we're going to be talking about two factors. This is going to be a little bit more of a loose one. We're not taking any heavy topics this time. It's not really a lot of opinions. We're really just going to be talking about all the news about Olisar, the removal of Olisar, and the replacement with Seraphim Station. And of course, CitizenCon. We'll talk a little bit about CitizenCon tickets and how they were sold and some of that stuff, but also just in general about the vibe of CitizenCon, because right now we finally got all of the information about CitizenCon proper, We still don't have all of the information for what's going to be shown off, like the panels and such. We won't get that for a little bit. But, it's always nice to kind of tune in to see what people are thinking about, especially for folks who are super far away from this year's CitizenCon. So with that being said, I'll start with you, Voidy, and let's talk about what's your general impression when you heard that Port Olisar was being removed. What was your first kind of gut reaction to that?
One of the first videos I actually ever made was because I thought it was actually going to happen a lot sooner. And I did very different type of content back then. And I actually did like a video that went through Port Olisar and kind of acted as like a bit of a tribute to it. But it took 2 years since then, 3 years since then for them to actually now kind of, begin to start putting the trigger. So kind of expected it. And I know, I'm not really torn. Like I say, out with the old, in with the new kind of a thing. I don't really have too much of yes, the nostalgic attachment will always be there, but it's more like, yes, give me a space station above Orison with a medical facility. And I mean, gameplay wise, that's better than any elevator mode renew. So
yeah,
that's my opinion on the matter. Yeah.
All right, Zark, your gut reaction to your news that you heard that when Olisar was being removed.
So first,
you don't have to get into the too detail. Like I know you want to get into that detail, but let's just go for the gut reaction first.
Yeah. First thing was, it's finally happening. I mean, I've been there since when Port Olisar got introduced. The first ever flights I've did was from that station. And oh boy, I'll be honest, I haven't been to Port Olisar a lot. Mm-hmm. If I disregard the last stop we did with Lore last week, I think it's probably 2 or 3 years since I was there the last time. So I'm not really very frequent there because I usually prefer, if I'm at Crusader, Grimhex, or directly Orison. Especially since it's much easier to leave now, but yeah. It's been a long time having the station. It's a very iconic station. And it's a very unique station. And I have to thank Dash for this, because he shared a couple of his thoughts with me, which kind of helped me sort this out. Like, there's no other station like Port Olisar where you spawn your ship and you see it through the window. Mm-hmm. This simple thing, like, you see your ship on the pad even before you leave. You sit on the windows, you see the ships lifting off. This kind of view is unique, and it's awesome. And having this missing is, it will be missed. Though I'll say this, kind of copying Dash's thoughts there, we need stations like Port Olisar coming back. I'll go there into details later on. Mm-hmm. But I must say I am positively surprised by Seraphim. It looks, it's a true homage. One can see Port Olisar in the station. And I must say it's probably right now the most unique space station we have. Simply from the appearance. The other space stations, I'll be honest, I have no idea if I'm above Lorville, above Microtech, above Area 18.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. They
look all the same.
Yeah, it looks so similar.
So hopefully this is a sign that they kind of push the space station generation system, and we might get an update to the space stations, and they finally look something more interesting.
I mean, they've got such a strong branding when it comes to the ships, right? It would be cool to see very strong branding come through with stations, 100%.
Oh yeah, I was going to say simple way of doing it is just colors. Like make the space station above Microtech white and blue. Yeah,
even better. Imagine the space station above Microtech having glass domes, having the one above Lowell very blocky, stony. It really
or gold,
copying with a lot of gold, copying the architecture from the ground. That's simple.
I know that may be a little more difficult because they have to like build those assets out, but I think once you have those assets, you can reuse those in other stations as well.
I mean,
because
they
won't
could
be the only
try.
ones.
I mean, they have already some of the assets due to creating the cities, so they have something they can use to build upon. And I say for Lagrange points, for all those other things, having those generic space stations, that's fine. But the main space station, about the capital of a planet, should look special. It should be unique. And that's what's missing right now.
I agree with that. I will say my first gut reaction to the whole thing was, thank God. Olisar, as much as we all love Olisar and have some nostalgic connection to it, it needed an overview. It needed to go away because it just does not support the gameplay going forward. And without a complete ground up rework of all of the assets to make it work, it just wasn't really valuable. But after like going through Seraphim Station and stuff like that, the other thing I thought was they say, oh, we're going to remove Olisar and it'll come back at some point. I'm like, yeah, it'll come back in 5 years. Like, I don't like it's gone, y'all. It's not coming back. I don't think in anytime soon.
I'm jumping onto Jared's theory there. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a theory.
It's a theory.
The deep state behind Stanton wants to crash Port Olisar into one of Crusader's platforms to rile up the population to attack Xeno threats and the Ninetales.
There we go. That's
can decide if this conspiracy will work or not.
Zark is just asking questions, y'all. He's just asking questions, okay? We all know that Crusader can't melt steel beams, so it's colony drop is an inside job. Hashtag. But I will say that overall, I'll be sad to see Port Olisar go, but I don't think people have as much connection to it as CIG thinks. I think because the one thing I saw from most reactions was, thank God I'm not going to get pad rammed anymore.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is like literal gameplay implication of like pad ramming and stuff. But I think, for myself, and I think in many early backers, I always remember one of the first times I was ever managed to log into the early 3.0 sort of builds of the game. Once, Olisar and Crusader kind of went live. And what Zark said earlier, like, one of my first experiences was literally walking out, and I mean, I'm running the game on like a 5070 Asus card, dude, and I mean, I'm chugging along at like less than negative frames per second, but I managed to catch a constellation. A constellation taking off through the window, like as I made my way through and dude, that was magical, dude. That was, and I think many people have this. So what you say is true, right? It does have that sense of like nostalgia and like epicness to it because you feel more grounded. And I mean, the early gameplay things of like, remember, I think it was Nyx when they had like the freelancer and the dude was going up the elevator, and Chris made a huge point of saying like, look, we're in the station, he's out the station, that's a player kind of thing. You don't really get that sense of you don't get to experience that very often in the game because a lot of the landing zones they're often out in random places. You don't see that at Louisville very often. You don't see that at Microtech or whatever very often because of the way these things are designed, which kind of makes sense, but it is don't really get to experience that often. So yeah, I think it has a special place in everybody's hearts. But dude, we got to move forward, man.
Yeah, got to move forward. Now I'll start with you for this question, Zark. What would you like to see going forward with Olisar and stations in general? Because this is set up for you, just because this does bring up the good topic about now that Olisar is gone, that is the last of the old assets. Everything else is new assets. Even Grimhex has got new assets, got its overhaul. So
let's start with Port Olisar and the reason why we need stations like Port Olisar. Now, obviously, everything goes into hangars. On the one side, stopping pad ramming, which will decrease once the law system and all these things get more and more implemented, once server lagging decreases. So if you pad ram, the guns actually hit you, kill you, now you have the problem that you don't get your ship, prison times goes up, all those things. So pet roaming will decrease. The second part is not every place can afford a huge big
Massive station.
Space,
Yeah.
Massive station. So what about the frontier? What about no man's land? Yeah, like literally Crusader L4 or something where there's nothing, but it's a Lagrange point. What do you put there? So, like, and space stations like Port Olisar or the baseball station, those truck stops that are just there to get in, get something to eat, maybe get some fuel, and be back on your way. That's it. It's not there to massively equip yourself. It's not there to have medical. It's just there. You go here, you find transportation, you find maybe some guy helping you with the turret, whatever. Those little truck stations, we need those. So stations like Port Olisar need to come back. The second thing is, and one of the great things about Port Olisar is that the interior actually made sense compared to the newer ones. You wake up in your hab, you go down, you have your ASOP terminals, and you have 4 corners with 4 shops where you find everything you need as a spacefaring guy. You walk out and you fly away. And the places did not seem too small because there were 4 hab modules and you were in one of them.
Mm-hmm.
These stations now, they are just too big, too spindly, too whatever for what's inside. And the inside does not make any sense. You have your hub. You come down your hub. You're in some sort of lobby, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can head for the ASOP terminal. So the thing is, if we put it into perspective, it's kind of like you leave your apartment and right in front of you is the airport security. Mm-hmm. And on the left of you is the elevator heading for the shopping mall.
Center. Yeah,
doesn't really make sense. And the same is true for the landing zones themselves. So ever since Lorville came into the game, I got to focus myself on landscape architecture. So first time I saw Lorville, it was like, cool, that landing zone is great. Nowadays I look at that place and I'm just horrified. And yeah. So,
you're talking about like the layout of the actual landing zone, not the
it's the landing zone. It's the landing zone. The city itself looks great, but just on a tangent of Lorville, the landing zone. First, the placement of the landing zone does not make any sense. This is the low-level scum-based landing zone. We have pretty much a kingdom, and we have the castle with the huge main building. So everything that's close to the castle should be the noblest area. There should be the royal guard. There should be the noble people, the dukes, whatever.
Yeah, the fancy market should be there. You know, like
right in there, right in front of this building is the scum area where you spawn in like the ghetto of the city, where like the lowest of the lowest people walk around, do their stuff. Doesn't make any sense. And then you have the layout itself. So you go out of your hub, and then you have 5 different directions that don't make any sense. They don't work with each other. There's no flow. And the same thing is true for the space stations. So usually what should be done is you have the hub area. You leave the hub area, you should be in the gallery area. The whole living room of the space station, where you have your food, you have your weapons shop, your gear shop, your armor shop, all those things. Side note, why the fuck do space stations either have an armor shop or a weapon shop? Why not both? Space stations, this artificial scarcity and spreading does not make any sense. It's the next part. But simply on the layout of the space stations, you have a living area. That's the hub area where people go sleeping. There should be some sort of recreational area where people can eat. From this, you should have the main living area of the space station. That's where people gather, where people buy stuff, where people that come in do their business. Well, when you leave or when you go out of your hub, you can do your business.
So, like, I'm going to pause you for a moment. Which I think what you're describing is what they kind of been working on with the interior building systems, because they talked a little bit about how you have the residential areas, and then at the bottom they have like the shopping areas where you walk through the shopping areas.
That's kind of the way. So, and the thing is, you would have to spread out the distance from where you stand up in your bed to the ASOP terminal. And and you have to organically have, okay, you go to the main area, and the main area right now is this foyer ASOP terminal part, and this does not make any sense. This has to be the gallery area. And this gallery area has to grow a lot. And from this gallery area, then you can go, there's the cargo area. There's the medical area, this kind. And only when this flow works, then the stations feel right. And that's the next part where we are on the whole interior building or underground facilities. The stations are so huge, but they are empty. They are boring. They have nothing. They're just... People only use the station because it's faster to go to the station and fly away than it's from the landing zone to fly away. And the problem both parts have, landing zone and station, there's no reason to be there. Yeah. There's no reason there. And only when they start putting in like the skyscrapers. Let's not talk about, I mean, we have the indication that we might even have streets in cities. But skyscrapers or true interior inside the space station, so you can actually have complete game loops within one city or within one space station. Only then will they have actually purpose. Because right now, they don't serve any real purpose gameplay-wise. They're nice to unload and offload cargo, okay. But if we're honest, we could use a station half that size that only does cargo. Would be fine. But that's the whole point. It's like there's the structure missing for the space station. The space stations aren't, and landing zones are not designed with people living there in mind. Yeah. And that is obvious. If you go there, no one would live in such a place. Not because it's bad. To be honest, I do like, for example, I love how the spaceport in Lowell is right in the middle. Something that would be unthinkable in today's, for us on Earth. Putting a spaceport right in the middle of a city. No one would do this. It's like insanity. But it's perfect for Lowell. It's perfect for Lowell because Lowell does not care about its pollution. It's loud. No, the spaceport is the heart of Hurston dynamics. And the symbol of Hurston dynamics is the tower. And those two together symbolize all the power. So having the tower being able to be seen from everywhere and having the spaceport right in the middle of the city, that's huge. That's a great design choice. Because that's how you project, that's my city, that's Hurston Dynamics city. But everything about the landing zone does not make any sense.
I'm gonna like kind of jump on this, and we'll get to Voidy, your thoughts on that, and then kind of your own thoughts. Is this where? But I like that idea, and the way that you described it, and I saw some people in chat being like, "This is a video game, bro." It's like, but form follows function, and function can follow form. Or it's if it works in real life, people will migrate that same direction because that's the reason why it works in real life, and it's the reason why like level designers take a lot of time to really plan out routes and stuff like that because they want to see how humans move through obstacles. And if you want to make a station like a race, like it is, it's currently like a maze, it makes it pointless and makes it just full a lot of empty areas that don't have a lot of purpose. But what I'm saying is I agree with that kind of idea.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just going on this, it's a video game.
Yeah.
The reason we do things in real life. So city building usually divides things into sections depending on their purpose, like private areas, semi-public areas, public areas. You take into account what's the infrastructure. Do you have doctors? Do you have medical infrastructure, schools? What kind of shops do you have, and so on. And gameplay-wise, this would translate in you wake up in your station, and on the way to your spaceship, you come across weapon shop, medic shop, armor shop. Everything you need to start. There would be at the end would be probably at the beginning, if we make it a bit more gamify. You wake up, you come across a blackboard. That's where you pick up your mission. Then you come across armor shop, weapon shop, miscellaneous shop like multi-tools and so on. So you can take your mission, you can take whatever gear you need, and then you come to your ship. And that's not there right now. And the same is true for all those landing zones. There is no way of purpose when you move them. You have always to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And streamlining this, putting designated areas is important, especially if we consider later on gameplay. Like if you have to help people inside a space station, where are those people? They will be in the semi-public or in the private part of the city, of the space station. If we work with weapon restrictions, where can you carry a weapon? Can you carry a weapon in public areas, in private areas, semi-private areas?
Mm-hmm.
All those areas, you have to map them out. And they have different feelings to it. And we have seen some of this with Pyro and how the gangs section of certain parts of the station in the Ruin Station previews.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of thinking is what would be needed for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go down to Lowell, you are in the guest area, the immigration area, let's call it. Here you can wear whatever you want. Then you enter the city area. No heavy weapons. They are banned. Then you enter the noble district. Even more, there will be even more harsh on your restrictions. On the other hand, if you go to the slums, they don't care what you bring with you. If you kill 10 guys, no one cares. I mean, maybe the workforce gets a bit dented, but if you kill a sick and elderly, person will say, okay, good job, we don't have to pay them anymore. So that's kind of the thing that's important with the zoning and sectioning and how people live. Because this will have gameplay implications if done right, and it will benefit the gameplay.
Okay. Voidy, what are your thoughts on some of those ideas, as well as your own thoughts about like the future of stations in game?
So yeah, I think it's disingenuous to just write it off and say, "Oh, bro, it's a game. You know, who cares?" kind of a thing. Because exactly what Zoc just said, a lot of this stuff feeds into the potential for more intriguing gameplay, right? And I think what CIG have kind of suffered with is like a scoping sort of problem and you know teething issues with getting this stuff built and designed in the first place. It's obviously no small task. And I can't even find the words right now to describe, you know, like we know how it is to have certain set dressing and a certain scene in a game set up in such a way that, you know, from the restricted angles that you can go in and appreciate this you know beautiful art that a game might have, it's always very constrained and linear in the way that it's been designed. Now you're taking lighting into account, design into account, the literally ability to see it from any perspective into account, and that's hard, man. It's really hard to get that right. And where these things are now, yeah, it looks great, and it's Lawville is astonishing, right? I've only been there twice during the day because it's always flipping nighttime when I go there, but that it really looks like S tier stuff. It's incredible. But in terms of layout and stuff, like Zoc's actually just opened my eyes to so many issues that I think you don't quite realize when you're playing the game or dealing with these places or experiencing these places, but it actually makes so much sense, right? And I wonder what it would look like if Pyro had, or you know, if some other system eventually came online and you had smaller in scope landing zones there that weren't supposed to be sprawling, you know, metropolises or whatever. what would they then be able to achieve if they could hone in on all the stuff and design it in a less vast way, right? And I think that would be, then you'd probably see a lot of the stuff come online, right? Like what makes sense in real life? How would we, kind of like, when are we going to get a landing zone that has no armistice or is more like a grim hex on ground? What would this kind of look like? We're going to have these like GTA Online type spaces where it's just absolute mayhem. But then you've got like certain districts that are like, nope, sorry, no weapons in this zone instead of an imaginary armistice kind of thing. So, I don't have an issue with the way things are at the moment. I'm just happy that things work and that they work sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that these things are online and we get to experience them. But I think those are brilliant points, and I hope to see more landing zones go in with this kind of thing, especially with all the stuff that's coming down the pipes eventually, right? With like, that little added degree of realism, because and that's the thing I'm actually most excited about is that potential gameplay that comes later, right? Like, oh no, you can't go into this zone because you're not allowed weapons, but gameplay is allowed there. So now you've got to get kind of creative, or ways to sneak in or smuggle weapons inside, and all this kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
100%, you can't just dismiss it and say no. It's just a game kind of a thing, because when you start thinking about things this way, it actually becomes so much more. The creative possibilities in the emergent gameplay, which is why I play this game, becomes more possible. And that's the thing. That's what I see Star Citizen as. They're setting up all these pieces and all these systems so that emergent gameplay can take place more often and with meaning. And I think that's what the game is on track to do.
Because you mentioned Grimhex is, in my opinion, probably the right now best designed space station we have, because you have the sleeping area, or the bed cabins. Then you have the main area, which serves as a hub. We have all those sprawling tunnels, which stem from the heritage of the place, but which serve a purpose, and where you have all those places. And when you go up from the sub area where you can equip yourself, you come to the ASOP terminals, you get your ships, but you also have the medic area where you can go for emergency when you come back. So that's what a good space station looks like, in my opinion. It's not perfect because it's pretty much confined to what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if we consider the GUM-like, we have occupied this place and retooled it to our purposes, probably the best station we have.
Yeah. I'll also say the other thing that you're kind of beating around, and I honestly think would love to see, is that stations get more uniqueness, more attitude. Why does Seraphim Station exist? Well, it's there to unload cargo for Crusader. Well, then it should look like a station that's dealing with heavy ship equipment, with the kind of materials that you need to unload and then transfer to Olisar. Whereas like a Microtech, it's a tech hub, so it should be very techy and very a high grade. So the shops inside of the station around Olisar or around Microtech should be something more akin to like an iPad, like an Apple store, or like much more focused on technology, selling and buying technology.
Everest Tower? Yeah, it's Everest Tower above Lowell, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
that one should be much more like a fortress. That's the place where all those weapons go through. That should be like a fortress. That's the station that protects the heart of the Horizon Dynamics empire.
Imagine if that
should
just
be a fortress.
Imagine if that place shared the visual language that you see of that massive Hurston building.
Yeah.
Even on the inside would be nice.
So cool.
And also the point of it, like that station, you would make sense to have unique shops, or just shops that are specifically like.
I'll be honest, they probably should copy a Black Fortress from 40K.
Yeah,
that would be the perfect space station for Lowell.
Something like that. Yeah. Now I get that CIG is going to have to, like, a lot of this is going to be Sauron tools, what tools that are designed to be generic, and you're going to have some generic stuff, but there's always ways that you can make these things unique for the area, while still keeping with more traditional design language for how flow of players and such.
I've read a comment before in the chat that said, the space station should reflect the system and the owner. So wealthy systems should have wealthy stations, and having a unique station above Lorville, Microtech, Arcorp, or Crusader, that's one thing. If we go to, let's say, Nyx, there is no unique station. That's pretty much scrabbled together. There they can make much more use of the procedural tools. If we go to Lagrange points, they don't need special places. So those can still use all those Sauron created space stations. But the important space stations that have a clear owner, someone who has a unique visual style, they have to reflect this.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with the port stations. That was a lot more content than I thought we were going to get out of that discussion. So thank you, Dark, for that. I hadn't realized, or maybe I'd forgotten that your profession. So that's a perfect kind of a segue, because you're probably one of the perfect people to talk about these sorts of design aspects, because you literally design these sorts of things for a living. So now, kind of a quick follow up with this, because we'll talk about the other thing, is CitizenCon. This is going to be more of kind of just your feels, because we don't have a lot of information. For those of you who don't know, there was a big brouhaha where early on they were selling a bunch of the VIP's tickets sold out instantly, like in seconds. But they were going in waves, and so each wave they had more VIP tickets, and eventually a lot of people who were trying to get them got them. Personally, I didn't, because I didn't want to do an F5 war for a ticket. I don't want to have to like fight for a privilege to spend an additional $100.
We've been conditioned for this type of thing.
Yeah, I don't own anything that required me to do an F5 war to win. So, like in Star Citizen, it's just not my style.
Yeah, I mean, you know the meme, what company imagine their target audience looks like, and you see all those whales spending monies. I don't know what to do with my money.
Yeah.
And then you have what the Star Citizen community is like, I have no idea what to do with my money.
Yeah. So the other thing is that there's still tickets on sale. So VIP tickets are now sold out, and there's still tickets on sale right now if you want to go. But I wanted to kind of get a quick overview, because I'm pretty sure Voidy and Zark, I'm sure neither of you are going to be going to this year's CitizenCon, because it's literally on the other side of the planet from you. So
I wanted
probably
to.
expensive. Mm-hmm.
I did the math. If I would book everything, it's like 700, 800 euros going over there. So flight and ticket. Then I would have to kind of hope that a fellow citizen lets me sleep on the couch or something. But sadly, the date is just impossible for me.
Yeah. How about you, Voidy? Are you going to CitizenCon?
That is still very much a pipe dream of mine. Maybe in like another 5 years, I'd be able to wrangle my way to a CitizenCon. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm lucky enough. Go ahead.
The currency exchange is obviously never going to be in my favor.
Yeah.
Yo, dude.
I give you a cheat code for going to CitizenCon. Just make sure CIG creates the next studio in South Africa.
There we go.
I think there's a couple of guys around trying to get like a Bri citizen or like a bar citizen in South Africa. We'll see how that goes.
What was I going to say? I live in the same country as this, and it's still going to cost me almost $2,000. So, which is a lot of money for me as a teacher. On average, I make about with most of this kind of content, now I'm making more money than I've ever had. Thank you to everyone who's been following and watching streams. It means a lot to me. But even then, I only make, I think, at most 12 to 1,500 a month off of everything I do. And a lot of that goes into like running, doing giveaways and paying for editors and all these other sorts of things as well. So there is some stuff, and so it's difficult to it's a difficult pill to swallow to say $2,000 for a trip to CitizenCon. But I got my ticket, so I'm definitely gonna try to go. But let's just talk about in general, like what are you feeling this CitizenCon? Are you hopeful? Are you pessimistic? What would you like to see at CitizenCon? I'll start with you on this one, Voidy.
While we're talking about the ticket prices, I haven't double checked, but was it like the BlizzCon sort of runs as well? And there's news about BlizzCon coming out now as well. The tickets were like $800 or something,
Yeah.
like the premium or top tier tickets. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, CitizenCon, I really enjoyed the last CitizenCon, but like I'm still in this perpetual sort of the state of shock that I always believe that when CitizenCon comes around, you know, they talk about all the pyro stuff, and then I expect gameplay or patch or something to come with it. And I know that's very, you know, we know a lot more sort of detail on server meshing and actual realistic timelines and stuff like that. But man, I'm an optimist and I have high hopes. But yeah, I don't know if they could really, if they could drop. I think there was one CitizenCon in the past where they showed off a whole bunch of cool stuff. They got the community hyped. Everything was so amazing, and then they literally dropped a patch on the PTU or on live. Like literally, by the time CitizenCon had ended, you could go and play new stuff. They have to do something like that this time around. It doesn't have to be pyro. It doesn't have to be something mega, but like a really chunky, you know, big boy patch would be fantastic. At, you know, just to wrap it all off, or really, you know, send us home kind of a thing with something tangible would be fantastic. But yeah, ever since I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago now, it was literally like I bought in and I was like, okay, cool. By the end of this year, we're gonna have pyro. We're gonna have something. And it just never sort of happened. But since those days, you know, the last CitizenCon that was purely online and it was still mostly sort of pyro focused. I enjoyed that kind of a CitizenCon. What does it mean that the CitizenCon is live for the first time in however many years? I don't know. I don't know if that's enough to really go and say, oh, something huge is happening. It might be just for the community, for the guys who are able to be there, you know, in person. It might just be a super special occasion to touch base with the community and see people in person again and you know, do what they've always been doing for the last, you know, sort of however many years. But I have high hopes, and you know, I really just don't know.
You don't know. Zark, your thoughts on CitizenCon?
It's hard to say. So there are a couple of strange things. First thing is that 320 will probably drop. Second day CitizenCon, Chris Roberts leaving us. Was nice to see you guys. 320 is now live. Kind of like this. I would bet on this. The issue is 320 looks interesting, but nothing to be hyped about. It's one of those, again, you needed bricks that gets put down, but isn't anything flashy. Question is if there's something more coming. For example, Arena Command Theaters of War. This would be really nice drop. Like leaving us with Theaters of War and Chris coming, guys, Theaters of War, you cannot play it. 320 new Arena Commander, let's do it. Would be a possibility. I'm also a bit confused because I believe it was it Star Citizen Live or Star Citizen where they talked about big ships, you have to go to CitizenCon for this.
What? I don't remember. I don't remember any of that. I mean, yeah.
I'm not sure if it was inside Star Citizen or Star Citizen Live. In the last 2 weeks, one of the devs said, "This show is not for the big ships. You have to go to CitizenCon for this." What was a throwaway sentence? But
I think that was from the Hong Kong big bar citizen recently. And
that turned out to be mostly false.
If you're into big ships.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. It was something like if you're into big ships, you know, you go to CitizenCon.
That has me actually confused because Polaris is like in pre-production figuring this thing out. So nothing there to show. The Kraken hasn't moved an inch, nothing to show. The Merchman is on hiatus, nothing to show.
Yeah.
Will they release finally Endless Capital Ship? Maybe. Could be. Okay, but that's nothing where I say, if you want big ships, look for CitizenCon, because pretty much every CitizenCon except one had their huge capital ship.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit confused there. What do they want to put out? Because there's nothing in production that we know of. So concept ship is the only thing that would make sense. Will they throw a couple of the squadron ships in? Maybe the huge Jean ship that's supposed to be in squadron. Maybe they break the unwritten rule and throw out a Vandal ship. I have no idea. Do they show off capital ship combat? Like true capital ship combat? Might be something. But then again, we already saw Idris to Idris fight. Capital ship combat is nothing we are hyped about anymore. Looks great, but we want to do it ourselves. We have seen Idrises and Javelins for years now. That's where I'm a bit questioning. Is this a hint that we might see Squadron? Yeah, like you go on the Idris, they show us Javelin, they show us. Maybe they end the squadron presentation with a retribution coming from Quantum. Who knows? But that's the whole thing where I'm really confused by. And the other thing I'm a bit unsure is, I mean, we have 2 days. So let's say one day Star Citizen, one day Theaters of War and Squadron. Would make kind of sense, because Squadron, they won't go into details. They will, if they do a Squadron presentation, it will be a slice. Maybe the release trailer and some talk, maybe the actors coming on stage, something like this. Then you have, but that's not a lot of time they can spend on it. So having Theaters of War, Arena Command with special thing, ending this whole thing, showing off what's going on. Star Citizen, the new battlefield, would be interesting. And considering the coverage, it would actually make sense to drop Theaters of War right after the CitizenCon, because that's Battlefield in essence, and Battlefield isn't doing that great. Call of Duty is now getting boycotted, so if they can capitalize on all those shooter guys looking for a new home, Theaters of War would provide this.
Yeah. I will say, for context, because I think a lot of people don't realize, is that CIG has also stated that as of now, as of this month, as of likely when you're listening or watching this podcast, CIG is already dusting off the cobwebs for when they last tackled Theaters of War, and are starting to integrate it into Arena Commander. We don't know if it'll make it 320 or whatever, but it is definitely in the process of being actively integrated into Arena Commander.
I mean,
as of July. So
we have vehicle combat working. We have starship combat working. We have spawn points working. So the only thing left is infantry combat and point capturing.
Yeah. So, and they had both of those working in the past. So with infantry combat. So,
so it should be getting in. I mean, it seems if they have the new Arena Command thing, that the back end should kind of work now, so might get in. And the other thing, I'm back to the Star Citizen side of the CitizenCon. That's where I'm a bit confused, because what will they show? I mean, a couple of things will come. First thing is whatever ship they reveal. Let's say
Squadron 42 release date.
Now, Squadron 42 release date, second day. That's probably second day together with Arena Command. They will say, here, Squadron, our vertical slice, that's our launch trailer. Next year we have Debater, everyone that has Squadron already or that's so and so long can go into the beta, test it, whatever.
I'm going to say I'm going to doubt that. I doubt we're going to see a Squad 42 beta, but I get what you're saying.
I could see something like, hey, guys, all of you that have been with us this long, you can go next year, help us test this. I could see this. And then you have Arena Command as the finish line, and final thing of Arena Command is Theaters of War. Chris Roberts says, here, 320 is live, play Theaters of War. The big thing about the Star Citizen part is, I'm not sure what they want to show us there. We will see, as I said, ship reveal, maybe the Anvil Capital ship with the new technology, whatever. We will see the new what ship should be made next thing. That one will return. And then is the huge question, what kind of tech showcases will they do? Because there isn't that much they can show us that's really exciting.
Yeah, if they just do more pyro, it would be how many years in a row that they've just done pyro?
4.
Yeah.
4. Ouch.
Almost 5 actually. 5 actually.
I can
6.
see them. I can see
19.
them doing. I can see them doing something about Nyx or what's the third system they're working on?
We don't know.
I mean
it's Nyx, but is the third system. But
no. I mean they're working on Pyro, Nyx, and I believe they are
Odin.
working on
that's for Squadron.
Odin.
Yeah.
Maybe they show. I say they show something about Nyx. The Ruster system, so base building. I don't think we'll see this again because we've seen this already. Maybe they showed some iteration, but that's nothing interesting. The UGFs would be cool to see them within the gameplay, like complete gameplay loop with a UGF. This would be interesting. Seeing it landing or coming with the ground vehicle, shutting down the anti-air turrets, coming down with the ship, going through all this, would be a nice gameplay loop. But it still leaves a lot of tech demo required. Showing of Quanta, I mean, I love Tony Z's presentation. I want to see one again. But just Quanta is a bit boring. I have seen Tony Z's presentations so often I can speak them synchronously. So that's the issue. What do they want to show? Will they show rope play?
I'll tell you what they'll do. If they release and demonstrate a new star map, that would excite existing backers and future backers.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's almost guaranteed.
New HUD.
Yeah. New HUD.
The new HUD with new star map. Okay. But I'm still missing. For me, the CitizenCon, the Star Citizen part, even if we include Bounty Hunting V2, like its EPOF says, it's still a bit empty. I mean, we have investigations kind of getting done. So putting this in, but again, that's something that's more working for the gameplay presentation. UGF's investigation, in my opinion, that's part of the gameplay presentation. But there's still, I'm feeling that there's still something missing in what they can show us in terms of content, in terms of development, in terms of tech demo or whatever. Something that's coming to the Citizen.
All right. I'll wrap it up with my thoughts on CitizenCon because I'm in the ambiguous category. It's one of those reasons why I was even hemming and hawing if I should actually go to CitizenCon because while it's a 2-day CitizenCon, there is no guarantee that Squadron 42 gets any limelight. It's what I hope it's going to happen. It seems like I'm reading the tea leaves. I've read the entrails. The bones are aligning.
The birds flying.
The birds flying in the right direction. Everything seems to be pointing in. My magic 8 ball is saying, this way. My Banu version of the magic 8 ball says stay. Like everything seems to be pointing to CIG is going to do something with Squadron this for CitizenCon. But just saying that doesn't mean it will happen. So the actual kind of reality that I think we're looking at right now, that you really need to kind of take a hard look at if you're super excited for CitizenCon, is whatever is coming with 320 and shortly thereafter. So maybe we get an update on server meshing. Maybe we get an update on like bounty hunting and the new HUD and the new movement system, the EVA system. We'll get, like Theaters of War stuff, the new Arena Commander stuff, possibly the new outfits and character customizer, which is being added to Squadron 42. The stuff for Pyro, like the things they want to do for intergang warfare, and an overview of Ruin Station. A good idea of what Ruin Station looks like, and maybe a full inside of Ruin Station. But I don't think we'll see a beta. In my wildest dreams, what they would do is announce Squadron 42 and then release the first mission as a vertical slice for free. That would be amazing, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, because the problem is, if they just focus on Pyro, that's nothing to be excited about.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's 5 years with just Pyro.
And the thing is, with 2-day CitizenCon, they need at least 2 big hits, 2 big hypes to get the people really riled up. And the first thing has to be about Star Citizen. And the second day, I agree with you. Squadron beta, there will also be no release date, but I can see them saying, okay, here, Squadron trailer, bringing the actors on board. I mean, it's enough, even if they don't show any vertical slice, just having Mark Hamill, Henry Cavill, and all the other stars coming to the stage, talking about their characters, like they do for movie shows and such things. I'll be honest, I'm fine with this. I don't need a vertical slice if those guys show up.
They don't remember their roles. They're not going to have much to say.
A lot of them forgot about it. Yeah.
And the thing is, and then you have like, okay, next year we have Squadron in the beta, and next year CitizenCon we give you a release date, something like this. And then you finish off with Theaters of War releasing this to the public on the PU. That's kind of second day, but again, for the Citizen part, there is something missing. And I don't like that if something is missing, because every year you could see, okay, that's what they will talk about. That's kind of what they are talking about. That's the tech they are working on. That's this they're working on. This year seems predictable, boring, and predictable not enough.
Yeah.
So something is missing from what we can guess we will see.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. It's the 2 days thing is what throws me for a leaf for that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
What are you saying? Something?
If it's enough little tangible things that kind of all come together, like a little bit of star map, a little bit of movement, parkour type, vaulting type stuff, a little bit of quantum, a little bit of everything, but just further progressed, I don't think I'd be too disappointed. I'm just hungry for content, right? I mean,
yeah.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing that a lot of us start to see CitizenCon as just a really big ISC? I don't know. Does the fact that this one's live make that less likely? I hope so. I wouldn't be terribly disappointed if it was a little bit of everything, but we're just going to wait and see. But I agree with Zark. There is it does feel like what is going to be the big thing, right? What's going to be the ultimate thing? In my, as I sit here right now, it has to be something Squadron related. Whether that's gameplay, playable stuff, tangible stuff, who knows? I expect a very updated modern demo at the very least, some kind of trailer, some kind of kingship versus, Idris's or Javelin type of thing, angle. You mentioned the retribution earlier. I think that might be enough, right? If you get to see this in action from the game, who knows? Maybe from the perspective of somebody playing it and not just trailer footage, that could be enough.
Again,
but who knows, man?
My big issue is, as far as I understand Chris, he would like both days to end with a bang. Both days have to have a bang. And the second day, theaters having Squadron shown, something around it, and having Theaters of War released, that's a bang. What about the Star Citizen part on the first day? That's where I'm missing the bang. And we already had the problem that the last two CitizenCons didn't really have a bang during COVID. So I'm sure he wants to have a bang. The question is, what can they throw in that riles us up? And it's not just having an Android capital ship. It's not just having the new HUD shown. That's great, but that's not the bang someone like Chris wants to do when he goes up on stage. I expect maybe something with the mission, but I'm not sure. There's something missing. I have a feeling. Something that'll surprise us. Maybe they throw in Nyx and another star system and say, yeah, Pyro is done. If you get it, 320 or 321. Because server meshing is done or something, and 320 and 4 or 4.0. Yeah, 321 will be 4.0 with Pyro, and 4.1 Nyx and whatever other system they're working on or something. Something big. And that's what I'm missing. What is the big thing?
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think the idealist in me wants to believe that there's something big, but the pessimist inside of me, and I'm going to be honest, because it's just this is pessimism, is that this is just CIG wants to make a big splash because they're coming back for the first time. They want to, because this isn't the first time that Chris Roberts has gotten ahead of himself. I remember the time when Chris Roberts was trying to make us pay. Well, that, and also make us pay for CitizenCon viewing rights. So like to watch it live, we had to pay for it, and pretty much the entire community just said no, get absolutely fucked. And Chris was like, well, that's what they do it for BlizzCon, and everyone was like, yeah, because Blizzard's released games, Chris. You've released nothing so far under CIG. You don't have the right to do that.
I mean, funnily enough, their goodie pack, which is pay for this live CitizenCon. Yeah, I pretty much have, I think, every goodie pack they released, so I paid for every stream. And I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a better way of doing it, anyways, of getting those goodie bags, because people like them, and I got them for giveaways and stuff like that. But we still have to wait. Like I want to reiterate to anybody who's furiously typing their comments in the video after the fact, being like, well, none of this is true. It's like, yeah, all of this is just us winging it, because CIG has said nothing, zero, and we won't know for several months. And as we said before, it's like it's a lot to ask somebody to fork over more than just $200. It's $200 for the tickets. Then you have to pay for travel, housing, food, other things, which is
giving a down to earth prediction. If you go there, expect a 2-day bar citizen, and that's it. Nothing special. With a couple of nice hour-long Inside Star Citizen clips, and that's it.
Yeah.
Do you think the days of live gameplay demo presentations are over? Do you think we'll see something like that?
They will put a live gameplay demo in.
Yeah.
So now, if they
And-
do that, I think it's going to be an
and-
interaction of like gameplay that goes from Stanton to Pyro and then maybe back to Stanton.
I can see
Something that links them and shows as something that's real and tangible. I guess that's the only thing I can think of.
Or the UFGs, so the large underground facilities.
The EGFs,
the only important thing is that the live gameplay demonstration, something will break again.
Yeah, I hope so. That's always fun.
Yeah, if it's not breaking, then the world is over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That can't happen. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up our discussion section for this. And we'll be moving on to the question and answer session. If you enjoyed this, make sure you join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, where you can come join these shows live, join the chat, and ask your own questions for the chat. And if you are watching this after the fact and you're like, well, I want to hear the whole thing, you're part of the hashtag Shelley work squad or the hashtag Shelley sleep squad, where you listen to this at work in the background or while before you go into sleep, then make sure you check out the full VOD, which will be right above Voidy's head. A little link will be there, and I'll also put it in the description. And then, of course, if you all of these go on podcast, I put them out through Spotify Podcasts, which then releases them to, I believe, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, like pretty much all of the different podcasts available. It gets released to all of them. So if you just want to listen to this in the car or whatever, make sure you check that out at the AstroPub podcasts there as well. Make sure you check out VoidyVids YouTube. Check out those videos. Like I said, Voidy is one of my favorite content creators in Star Citizen, and it's hilarious and well paced. And I love gameplay videos, and I don't think gameplay videos get enough love sometimes from the community. So check him out. And if you want to find Zark, you can come join us on Discord. Discord's available. It's open to everyone. You can put the link in the description. It's all available. Come join us. We have some wild conversations and some great community. It's kind of growing there. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.